If you've recently started managing a team in Indonesia, you may have found yourself wondering, why do I have to give so much detail? I thought these guys were capable. And you give a task and you explain what you need and you agree on a deadline. And then a few days later, you discover that not too much has happened. So you start checking more often and you give more instructions and you follow up more frequently. And suddenly you realize, wait a minute, I'm micromanaging. I don't want to be that kind of boss. But here's something that's quite important to understand. In Indonesia, what you see as micromanaging may not be seen negatively by your team. If this managing is done as a coaching approach rather than a controlling approach, your involvement can be interpreted as a boss who cares about their employees and is willing to guide them. Not that you want to be a micromanager, but how should you delegate in Indonesia? First, you have to be very clear about the assignment. In the Western workplace, you may delegate by outcome. Can you take care of this by Friday? And then we expect the employee to figure it out, knowing that if the employee had any questions, they would feel free to come to us and ask for further detail or further instruction. But particularly when someone is accustomed to working under a more direct manager, they may be expecting some guidance. What exactly do you want? What exactly should the results look like? What decisions can I make by myself, and what kind of things do I need to come back to you to get approval? I've talked in a previous video about how Indonesians employees can sometimes be very cautious about boundaries around their job. They may not want to step outside of these boundaries in fear of stepping on somebody else's toes or making a decision that they feel that they may not be authorized to do so. Not only do you have to delegate the job, you have to delegate the authority as well. You have to be very clear about where they make decisions and where they need to check in first. The second thing about delegation is that you have to delegate according to experience, not just position. Let me expand. This is something that I think many managers overlook. Someone may have a fairly senior title. So naturally, you assume that they should be comfortable in doing the certain job. They may have spent years working for managers who expect employees to follow instructions and then come back to the boss before making the next decision. So don't automatically assume that someone's position tells you how comfortable they are with that type of authority. Find out what this person is capable of handling independently. Give them enough responsibility to stretch them, but also enough guidance to make sure that the outcome is successful, and then gradually increase the amount of authority that you give to them. Delegation is certainly something that can develop. And the third thing that we should consider is make escalation part of the assignment. When we delegate, we often say, if there's a problem, come and see me. That works if the employee feels comfortable coming to see you. But in Indonesia, often that isn't the case. Your employee may not be clear about when they're expected to solve something by themselves and when they're expected to come and discuss with you. So make escalation very specific. For example, you can negotiate directly with the supplier, and if the price changes by less than 5%, you make that decision yourself. Anything beyond that, check back with me. Now the employee is very clear about the guidelines. You have created a safe area for them to operate independently. They know what they own, they know what they can decide, and then they know when you're expecting to be involved. And actually, that makes independent decision making much easier. The last thing that I think you should consider is checkpoints instead of waiting for the deadline. So let's say that you've delegated something on Monday, it's due on Friday. Instead of leaving it until Friday, say, Let's look at the draft together on Wednesday. That Wednesday meeting isn't there because you don't trust them. It's an opportunity for you to coach them or correct anything that's misaligned. You can make corrections on Wednesday instead of discovering on Friday that there's a big problem. As your team become more experienced, you can gradually remove a lot of these checkpoints. And then this brings us back to micromanagement. Many expat managers have been taught good managers delegate and then step back. So checking regularly can feel like micromanaging, being too involved into what's going on. But your Indonesian employees may interpret that involvement quite differently. A boss who spends time guiding, checking the progress, helping them improve, may be seen as a boss that actually cares about their development. The important difference is your intention and your approach. If you're checking because you don't trust them, of course, they see that as controlling. But if you're checking because you're coaching them towards greater independence, that's development. Your message should be, I'm helping you to become confident enough that eventually I don't need to be involved anymore. And the last thing that I think you should understand is do not ask, do you understand? This one small change can make a huge difference. Instead of, do you understand? Try, just so that we're aligned, talk me through how you're going to approach this. Now you're not testing them. You're checking whether the two of you have the same understanding. And if something has been misunderstood, you can correct it before it even starts. So when you're delegating in Indonesia, remember, be clear about the outcome, delegate according to the person's experience, not because of their position, and define what authority that they have. Tell them when to escalate, give them checkpoints, and coach towards greater independence. The goal isn't micromanaging your Indonesian team forever. You won't be here forever. The goal is to remove uncertainty, build confidence, and gradually give them the freedom to operate without you. If you found this helpful, subscribe to the channel for more practical advice on managing across cultures in Indonesia. And if you'd like to discuss your particular situation, get in touch with me via my website, www.understandingindonesia.com. I'd be delighted to discuss your particular situation with you, and I really hope I hear from you soon. We'll see you in the next one.